All right, that was the first routine, about 14 or so. Yeah, there you go. Now, at what point did you realize I'm funny? I've got something here.
Well, there's two different revelations. I'm funny, and I've got something that came at two different times.
Right.
I knew I was funny really, really early on. In my house, it's really funny. My mother, my brothers, my father, everybody has a sense of humor. And I was funny around the house. And then I became funny around my little group of friends. So I knew really early on that if I was trying to do something funny, I could get a reaction from it. And after I got on the stage and started doing stand-up when I was around 15, and I would see the reaction, that's when it was like, hey, there's something, I got something here.
Right. And then you started to hone it.
I started to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was honing it. I was doing it as much as possible.
You remember your first night on stage?
Yeah, I was at a place called Mr. Hicks' Place. The first place I did stand-up as a stand-up. First place I ever did stand-up, period, is the Roosevelt Youth Center when I'm 15. I remember that. But the first place where it was a grown-up, in front of grown-up people, I'm 15 as well, it was a bar called Mr. Hicks' Place. It's like they used to have gong show night. Remember they used to have the gong show?
Right.
And all the little bars was having gong show nights, all the local, talent was going up to gong, getting gonged at the bars and stuff. And you could win like $25. My brother was like, go do Stevie Wonder impression at the gong show night. You could win that money. So I went down to Mr. Hicks' Place. And back when I started, I did mostly impressions. I do like all voices, like Ali and Cosell. Back then, that's how long I've been doing stand-up. Ali was the champ when I started, okay? Ali was the champ, and Jimmy Carter was the president. It was. I had a Jimmy Carter impression, and Ali had all this really weird stuff.
Can you still do them?
I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna try. But I had all of this stuff that I would do. And so I went down to Mr. Hicks' Place to do my Stevie Wonder impression and win that money. And that's how I started doing it regularly. Yeah. I lost incidentally.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you. You didn't get the 25 bucks?
There's some dude came up. They had a live band there, and the guy won. If you got the time, he got the beer. Miller beer. Remember the Miller?
Yeah.
If you got the time,
right.
We got the beer.
Right.
Beer. Okay, this fucker gets on stage, right? And we're in Mr. Hicks' Place, and he's singing, if you got the time, we got the, he's got a great voice, Miller beer. He doesn't say, he says, so if you got the time, Mr. Hicks has got the beer. And when he said Mr. Hicks and replaced Miller time with Mr. Hicks' name,
right.
The fucking roof caved in. It was like Mr. Hicks, yeah. There's no way you could follow that. And I lost.
You lost.
I lost to that guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't say Mr. Hicks has got the beer. He said Mr. Hicks have got the beer. He said, so if you got the time, Mr. Hicks have got the beer. Roof caves in. He gets the $25.
Mr. Hicks sells more beer.
Mr. Hicks sold a round of beer on every plate. Gave everybody a round of beer.
And you walked home.
I walked home.
And your brother's like, did you get the money?
Nah. What happened? Mr. Hicks have got the beer. That's what happened.
It's the little details.
It's the little details. You gotta learn how to split a verb if you want to win that money.
You never thought you're gonna lose to a guy singing about beer.
Yeah. Mr. Hicks.
Mr. Hicks.
But the good thing about that, there was a guy named Steve Love in the audience that night, and he owned a place called the Dolphins Cove down the road.
Right.
And he was like, how long can you stay on stage? And I said, I don't know. He said, I'll give you $1 for every minute you can stay on stage. So I started playing his place down the road, and that made me start writing more. It was like I only had 5 minutes. It was like every time I could get on this, if I get on the stage 15 minutes, I get $15.
Right.
So it's like I was writing, trying to come up with stuff. Because if you go do 5 minutes, 5 minutes seems like a really long time if you're just starting out doing stand-up.
It is a long time.
But yeah, but it ain't a lot of money afterwards. All that money and sweat and shit, you come off, you got $5. You're like, shit.
It's a lot of stress for $5. Yeah, barely paid for the bus fare.
No bus fare. We was walking to the gig back then.
Yeah?
Yeah, Dolphins Cove was on Nassau Road, about a mile and a half from my house. I used to walk to the gig.
Just walk on up there, get the $5.
You get the $5 and walk back.
When I come back in about 2 months, I'm gonna be up to 20 minutes.
Yeah, I never got to 20 minutes. I got as much as 15 minutes I got.
Is that right?
Back then, yeah. When I was 15, 16 years old, I had 15 minutes. and I would get $15.
Who'd you try your material on?
The audience,
That's
just
it?
go try it out at the club.
Not at home? So you went straight to the stage?
Yeah, well, you know, the mirror, from the mirror to the stage.
Right. Acting-wise, who were some of your influences?
You know, I never had any acting influences. You know, only actor I ever tried to copy off of ever is, and you would never, now I'll tell you what it is, and now that I tell you, you'll be able to see it. The only actor I've ever tried to copy off of was Bruce Lee. And that's because when I did an action, when the first movie I did where I was supposed to be mad, and I was supposed to do action, I had no reference. In 48 hours, it's like, okay, you're coming down this room and you're mad, or you're coming down this alley. It's a scene in 48 hours where I'm coming down the alley and it's all this neon and I'm supposed to be, you know, intense, and I had no reference. I do my Bruce Lee impression, and I still do it to this day. When I'm mad on screen, if I pull a gun out, I'm doing, it may not look like Bruce Lee because I look nothing like him, but on the inside, it's all my face and stuff, all the shit I'm doing with my eyes. When I get mad, it's all my Bruce Lee impression.
All right, see, that's something no one knew.
It's a total, it's a great person to steal from, because no one has ever watched a movie and said, he's doing Bruce Lee. He's doing Bruce Lee. Because he's a karate guy, and I was like, not his karate, what he did with his eyes, how he could communicate with his eyes, and what he did with his face.
Right.
You know, that's
Right.
what I was trying to steal.
Yeah, you're a big fan of martial arts.
Big fan.
Yeah, and boxing fan.
Well, I'm the bigger fan of boxing. My dad boxed professionally, and I grew up around it. And whenever there's a fight, you know, I'm in front of the TV screen. I watch two bums fight though at 4 in the morning. You know, some channels, some cable channel, be two bums like this, and I'll watch it. I be kicking his ass, ain't he? I watch any fight.
Your favorite fight of all time?
But the all-time great fight of all time is Ali Frazier 1.
Okay.
Because it has, you know, for me, it's not just two guys getting in there fighting. It's all this other stuff that comes into play, you know. Just the science of boxing and the styles meeting up. But Muhammad Ali brought theater to it, so it's all this theater, like, you know, it's a show. His presence and the whole, there's nothing like that sporting event.
Right.
That one, it just sticks out.
Yeah. Let's talk about Delirious.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts about Delirious. You know, in terms of when you did it. And I remember when you first did. What year was it? 83.
83 or 82, way back.
Yeah. So Delirious.
82.
Early 80s.
Yeah, it's early 80s.
Yeah. So talk about Delirious.
Well, when I did Delirious, the only reference I had for that type of show was Richard's in concert, where he had done that, you know, all that stuff about in the woods and, you know,
having a
heart attack, all this brilliant stuff. That was my only reference. And back then, HBO was new, you know, was no HBO specials and all that stuff was new. Like when Delirious came out, it was this big controversial thing because of language and subject matter and all. If you look at it now, compared to the stuff that they're doing now, it's like, but when it came out, it was like, oh, the language. The language. It's like, it's like this. When you ever watch when the Beatles, the footage of the Beatles when they came out, and the stuff that they were saying about the Beatles, it was wild rock and rollers, and you look at them now, they got suits on and ties, and it was all their long hair rockers. It's like these guys had ties on, bowing at the same time, you know. And it's a lot like that when I look at Delirious, and that it's like Delirious is harmless, but back then, you know, it was really controversial.
Yeah. What was controversial?
This language and subject matter talked about a bunch of stuff that hadn't been talked about and dealt with a bunch of things that, you know, things you never said. No one had ever said anything about Michael Jackson before. And no one had ever mentioned AIDS before. And no one had ever mentioned a bunch of different things that I was just saying. You know, so it was like, how can he say that in that language? There was a lot of that going on, you know.
Right. Some of your favorite routines on that?
On Delirious? My favorite routines. I think the classic bits. You know, lots of times the way I use it. Lots of times somebody sees a comedian, they'll be like, "Oh, I saw so and so's act. He was hysterical. I just saw it. So really, what did he talk about? What was, No, I don't know. He did something about something. I said, well, give me just one of his bits, just one bit. And they can't give a bit. If you saw a good show, you could go, oh, they did that bit about that, and they did that bit about that, and they did a bit about that. And in Delirious, it has bits like ice cream bit stands out, the ice cream man, and the Goonie Goo Goo, all that stuff are going, the cookout, my father, and the singing thing, all the stuff with the singers and all that stuff kind of stands out.
Yeah, Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my one of my favorite little routines of mine. Because that's one that everybody can relate to. It's like no matter where you come from, if you grew up in America, you know.
Yeah.
You heard the Ice Cream Man and you know what that routine is.
Yeah. And your father.
Yeah.
Getting a little drunk, acting up, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, what drove you to talk about those subjects at that time? AIDS, you know.
That was just the stuff that was going on. That's the stuff, AIDS was new, and people didn't know about it. It was the stuff that was in the paper. You know, a comedian talks about the stuff that's going on in the world around him, and that was the stuff that was in the world around me. You know?
Yeah. And you took a lot of pressure for that. You know?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, but it was part of it. It was a different time. I remember they used to picket the show, and they used to do all kinds of stuff. And, you know.
They used to picket your show when you went on tour?
Oh, yeah, I've been picketed. Because, you know, I just talk about everything back when they weren't talking about anything. So if you said anything about gays, you had the gay people at your show. Like, no. No. You know, anything you said, anything about, they would pick it. You know, and then there was a thing back in the day where it was almost like if there was any type of controversy with anything, somebody would always pop up and be the spokesperson for it and be on the news talking about, no, we feel this is wrong, and it would just take it and go for anything. I remember I did a movie once where I did Harlem Nights, and because we shot Harlem Nights in L.A., the people of Harlem was going, it is wrong, it is wrong. It was picketing me, you know. Like, where's the movie? He should shoot it here. He should shoot it here. But you don't shoot movies in Harlem. You shoot them in Hollywood. No.
Now you're like, what, 20 years old, and people are on the news, you know, protesting you and about your routines, and what are you thinking at this point?
I'm thinking, I'm hot. I've got some heat, huh? they're tripping. I never paid any of that stuff any mind. It's always a small group of people or individual or somebody that was, you know, I always felt like somebody wanted to be on TV or something anyway, so they were taking a shot. And it was part of it for what I was doing. It just came with it.
Right.
So I never, you know, felt any way about it. It was like, okay, this is what they're talking about now. Cool.
Right. You know, it's so funny. Everybody remembers that special, knows this special, and everybody always talks about it's their favorite special. Do you get that from people walking up to you and talking to you about it?
Yeah, you know, and I always say, oh, if someone tells me it's their favorite, I'd always go, did you ever see Richards in concert?
Right.
Because for me, that's the best. I mean, even if you're studying the art form, that's the best. Okay, you want to be a stand-up comic, you want to see what the art form is, you take Richards in concert, where he's got on that red shirt and the black pants and the gold shoes, the whole I Can't Breathe. I think the album was called Wanted.
Right.
But it's called In Concert. And that's the single greatest stand-up performance ever captured on film. It's like, okay, well, here's the ceiling. This is the best that it's ever been done. Then Mr. Cosby has a bunch of things, a bunch of albums and a couple of shows that they captured that you can put on to watch. But Richards in concert is the best. So when anybody comes up to me, oh, Delirious is the best I ever think, it's like, hey, this is the root of Delirious, you know. Right. You're looking at the leaves, look at the root of the tree.
All right, Kunta Kinte. Hold him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what was up with the red leather outfit?
You know, the red leather outfit happened as an accident. Whatever I was supposed to wear that night got messed up. And I went to the mall just to get something, and the suit, the pants don't even go with the jacket. It's like this 2 different color reds. That's how much of a fuck I didn't care back then. I'm gonna go do my HBO special. I said, give me Crimson and Fire Engine. Ain't nobody gonna know. And put it on. I went out there, one is Crimson and one is Fire Engine.